Hello from Clio Cloud Conference 2016 in Chicago, Illinois. I'm Kimberly Sanchez.
I'm Adriana Linares.
I'm George Psiharis.
And I'm Silberbach.
And we're on the road with Legal Talk Network. Thank you so much for joining us on the road. It's a pleasure to be here today. We're talking with George Psiharis and Steve Silberbach on whatever your sessions were today.
I have a real problem with Steve's last name.
Oh.
It's Silberbach. It's two B's in there. But I think we always say it like there's a V.
We do.
You do. It's Silberbach.
It's Silberbach.
Yeah.
Silberbach.
B-A-C-H.
Right. And George, do you guys only hire people with really hard last names to say and spell it, Clio?
Yes. That's why you don't work for us.
Yes. I don't know. Adriana Linares can be a little challenging. Now, Kim Sanchez, on the other hand.
Lots of diversity there.
Lots of diversity. So what do you guys do at Clio?
I'm Clio's Vice President of Business Development, and I work in 3 areas of the business. I work in our partnerships team, so we partner with law schools and bar associations and other key partners for Clio.
Awesome.
I work with our international team that pursues overseas market expansions, and I work with our data operations team.
You're a busy guy, George.
I try to be.
And you have a brand new baby.
Yeah.
So you've got a beautiful brand new baby and a very busy job. Steve, what do you do for Clio?
George is the glue of the company.
He truly sounds very glue-like.
He really is glue-like. I am the Senior Vice President of Global Sales at Clio, so I manage and run our global sales team.
And your experience is amazing because you came from a very large global company, decided to leave that big, giant company to come work for this, as Jack Newton likes to call it, a scrappy startup that has really come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent 8.5 years at Salesforce.com building out the business on the East Coast out of Toronto and left about 3 years ago to join Clio. Joined the scrappy team that's turning into be a big, successful growth story.
It's really amazing. There's 700 attendees at ClioCon this year, and you two gave a couple of great presentations today, so that's what we're going to sort of try to summarize very quickly. Kim, I know you went to Steve's session.
I did. I went to Steve's session, and he did an excellent job talking about the cloud. So, Steve, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we spent most of our time talking about the benefits of the cloud and how cloud can be used to drive growth in your firms. It's what I started to do 10 years ago at Salesforce and what we continue to do here. The power of the cloud, the data insights that it gives us, the flexibility that allows our customers to grow their businesses is really what was the main topic of discussion in my...
It was a really interesting session because Steve was talking about how lawyers were not necessarily business people, and so being a businessman, he had quite a few excellent suggestions to use Clio for small businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, we spent our time talking about how some of the data insights drove us to develop some features and integrations with our partners that allow customers to really use Clio as a platform to grow. We talked about Clio payments and the ability to accept credit card payments for both their operating and trust accounts really effectively.
Tell them the Google AdWords San Antonio one.
Love to tell you the Google AdWords story. So there was a blog that we used as a data source to talk about the most expensive Google AdWords in all of Google, not just in our industry. And what we learned was 9 of the top 10 Google AdWords and 78% of all the most expensive Google AdWords were for legal services. So lawyers are spending a lot of money on advertising, and what we try to do is show them how Clio can maximize that output. For interest's sake, because I know you're going to ask me this next, what was the most expensive AdWord? San Antonio car wreck lawyer was the most expensive, which was amazing to us.
What's going on San Antonio with all those car wrecks?
Need to learn
Hope
how to
there's enough
drive.
lawyers down there to meet that demand.
Stop suing each other every time you crash into one another.
But one of the really cool features on that, not only was it hilarious, but was that the lawyers can now track where, like, if they're using Google AdWords or a particular phone number or something like that, so that they can make really smart business decisions, right?
Inside Clio. Let me back up and take us back one step, and let's talk about how Clio likes to describe itself and has grown into what is a platform. So as opposed to just being one service that does one thing, George, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we mean when we say Clio is now a platform, and that's really what it's grown into.
Yeah, we certainly hope to look at ourselves as a platform and also as the growing system of record for legal. basically Clio allows third-party developers and other vendor applications to integrate with it, such that if people want to build onto the functionality that Clio provides using the cloud, they can do that, both for other products that lawyers like to use, but also for custom builds. So we're seeing a lot of larger firms versus the traditional Clio users do custom reporting and build a lot of stuff that really turns us into a platform as opposed to just an application.
And I want to jump in and just throw my consultant hat on real quick, because what happens is lawyers come to us all the time and say, which one should I pick? Okay, where we want to move to the cloud, we want to get rid of servers. There's 4 or 5 products out there. Which one should I pick? Which is the best for us? For me as a consultant, it's been a no-brainer from the beginning. I mean, in full disclosure, Clio's always been my favorite, mainly because Ryan and Jack became friends so many years ago. But here's the truth. There are products out there that stay very siloed, that don't allow lawyers to expand the services that they need and that they use outside of that product. So then you start having to use like Band-Aid stuff together. Clio has what's called an open API, which allows, and many of your partners are here, to plug in so that lawyers can get more out of Clio than just Clio. You're talking to other programs. So what Kim was just describing is that there's this analytics dashboard that is what you were talking about, Steve, which allows you to take your Google AdWords account and have it talk to Clio.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the real power, exactly as you described it, is that Clio is just the base by which you can build an entire cloud-based infrastructure around. And any gap in functionality that Clio might have, we can fill really comfortably with any of our partners who can use our API to just link in and become an extension of Clio. That's the real power. The specific feature that I was talking about, our campaign tracker, allows them to go outside and pull in all of their campaign and spending information on their campaigns, and then actually in real time be able to capture customers and leads and opportunities that have flowed through all the campaigns they're doing right into Clio, right through our platform, and then be able to work those as leads that they hope will turn into actually paying clients.
What are your favorite third-party integrations to talk to clients and customers about that you find lawyers are going, what? It does that?
Yeah, so things like Lexicata, which I spoke about this morning in my speech, was really a real powerful way to kind of automate the intake process for our clients. It's part of what makes Clio so great is other companies like Lexicata are actually building a solution that is built entirely and exclusively to work on Clio, kind of in the front end of our customers' interactions with their clients, and then seamlessly take it right through everything else we're doing. Really amazing.
Yeah, and I think that segues nicely to George, because what Stephen was talking about was how they have all of these tools that integrate with each other, and that makes the sort of the practice of law much more seamless and much more efficient. And why is that important? Clio's done this incredible study with all of this new data that they have now. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, George.
Sure. So as Clio's grown and we've gone from the hundreds to thousands to now tens of thousands of users, we've got access to data that we anonymize and aggregate and are able to report on global trends, both in terms of prices for legal, but also in terms of productivity and efficiency in people's firms. So this year, for the very first time, we've launched what we think is the first source data-driven legal index and insights report that we're calling the Legal Trends Report, powered by Clio. We think in the first time of this 4,000-year-old profession.
And explain what you mean by that, because you just said it to John Mitchell in such a smart way, which was it's basically being survey information that we've gotten, right? Attorneys get a survey from either their bar association or from a consulting company, and they survey and they send back. But what you're saying is our data, your data is...
Yeah, exactly. So
empirical.
It's empirical, and it's what you could consider source data. So what I mean is, up until now, in order to get this type of data, people would have to do surveys, and you see a lot of questionnaires that get sent out. Think of even somebody like collecting census information door to door.
Sure.
This is the type of surveying we're talking about. And we know that while that can get useful data, it's also coming from people, right? You're asking them, and if we think of marketing as a good example, back in the good old days in marketing, you used to figure out how people found out about your product by asking them, hey, how did you hear about us? Now, we've got a whole industry built around web browsers that track what ads people click on, what things they see, what they read immediately before they buy, and they don't know or have to disclose any of this information. It's just automatically tracked and counted by virtue of the internet.
Clio does data.
Clio does data,
Clio
exactly.
does data. It's a new bumper sticker for everybody.
Yeah, I'm going to get you one each of those.
And funny story, I said to Jack Newton in the back of of George's presentation, wow, this is incredible. Did you hire a firm to like track all this data, look at all this data and analyze it? And he said, no, basically it was George and I, late nights, and some of our data analyst team. So Clio is really invested, and it's clear, I think, with this report, and then also then what Steve is doing in his team to use that data to really drive.
George loves staying up late and playing with data.
It's his favorite thing.
Yeah.
It's his favorite. He loves that.
Just don't touch my data, and I won't
Don't touch
yours.
George's data. What were some of the most, is startling a good word to use in your findings?
Yeah, I think that's a great word. So, startling finding number one for us was,
That's one.
yeah, we'll get started with number one, was plotting the billable hour index we created, so the price for an hour of legal services over time, kind of like you see like stock indexes, the S&P 500, that kind of graph. And we looked at legal prices and how they've changed over the last 6 years. They've gone up a bit from around $210 per hour to around like $230 per hour.
That's the average nationwide in the U.S.?
Nationwide,
Okay, the
hourly
average.
billable average.
Of course, it goes much higher and can go lower,
yeah.
but
It varies by state, by practice area, by firm size. But this is an average. And it's gone up a bit, but when we plot it against a metric like what's called consumer price index, we actually see that law firm prices haven't gone up as much as prices for other things. So that was an eye-opener for us.
so they're not reacting to the inflation and just
Exactly.
everything else going up. Lawyers tend to kind of stay the same.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And another thing that we saw was that differences in price increase in geography don't necessarily map to cost of living. So some of them do, but some of them don't. And we see states where it's more expensive to live and legal rates are lower and vice versa, which was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where you guys will go with this data. I know that you just started, but I just wonder too, as you get deeper into it, how those prices or those fees and costs are affected by number of lawyers that might be in that state, by population, by the types of areas of practice that are being affected. It's very interesting. Startling fact number 2.
Yes, startling fact number 2 is we looked at traditional law firm ratios, so a lot of the metrics people use to measure their law firms. Some people might be familiar with them. We'll explain them all in the report if people check it out. But there's one called utilization rate, which is basically a measure of how effective are you at taking the available hours in the day, however many days that is, 8 hours, 10 hours for each workday. How effective are you at turning those into billables? And most lawyers in this kind of like survey type environment report that they're using about 60% of their time. The data we ran startled us and showed us that it was more like 30%.
Wow.
Ooh.
It's a big, big
Yikes.
difference.
Reality check, lawyers.
I know.
And so-
Incredible, though. Incredible.
Yeah, just a real eye-opener for all of us. And where it really ties into what Stephen was just saying is where people are spending their time is on a lot of the stuff that what he addressed in his cloud presentation helps you automate. You're not doing legal work because you're working on client intake instead of having an automated process with a vendor like Lexicata. You're manually assembling documents instead of
You're
using
answering the
document
phone
automation
yourself instead of
via-
using Ruby.
Exactly. So that was a real eye-opener for us, and we're just getting started. We're scratching the surface in terms of all the data we're going to analyze and the startling insights we're going to continue to come up with.
I think as an additional point to that, I think what we're starting to see as my 4th year at the Clio Cloud Conference is we are making the transition for our users from just being lawyers to being business people as
Right.
well.
I agree.
And helping them understand that whether they like it or not, they have to think about their practice as a business. And the legal trends that George was talking about and all the things that we spoke about are really addressing the fact that the tools we're providing you helps you run a better business so that you can deliver better service to your clients.
I was talking before you came and chatted with, when I was standing there talking to John Mitchell and Ray Abedin, was when I go into a law firm and the metrics that they're looking at to figure out how successful they are haven't changed, right? So basically the metric a law firm uses is, hey lawyer, how many hours have you billed this year? And that's all I'm not going to say that's all they care about, but that's really what the yardstick has been. With information like this, educating lawyers about the different aspects of practice that you can take as a measurement and looking at that in a very easy way is really educational and informative for lawyers. I think it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Any other startling metric number 3?
There will be more.
Where can they get the report?
Stay tuned. So the report's going to be published on October the 17th. And we're going to be posting that on the Clio website.
Great.
And of course, people can reach out to us as well if they'd like to get early access. Best way to find me is on LinkedIn, George Psiharis, last name Psiharis. first name, normal spelling, and Twitter handle as well.
Wait,
George
unless
Psiharis.
you're in Miami.
Yes.
Yeah. That's true.
Normal is relative, it's true.
What about you, Steve? How can people get a hold of you, keep an eye on you, ask you any questions in the future?
I live on LinkedIn. Love to see you there. Steven Silberbach, one word. That's Silberbach. Steven with a V. I live on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with anybody who wants to talk more about the business of running your law firm.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for spending a few minutes with us.
I have
yes.
one, like maybe last $1 million question
good.
for
We love those.
these executives at Clio. I have heard a rumor that, and you, Stephen, can probably appreciate this, that at Salesforce, evidently the culture is incredible. And like on Fridays, you guys had, I don't know, Hawaiian Fridays or something.
Yes.
I want to know, and I think our listeners would like to know, what, in one word, maybe two, if you have to, is the culture like at Clio? Is one of these scrappy startups that everybody wants to be at. Can you do one word?
I can do one word. Fun and growth.
Fun and growth.
As a sales guy, we'll call that one word.
I like that that's one word.
Yes.
George?
Fun and growth. That's FUNENGROTH.
Fun and growth.
Fun and growth.
Fun and growth.
I'm also going to say multiple words as one word. Here we go. High performance and human.
Yes, and there's the
Twist.
difference between the two.
That is very.
That's the sales guy and
I
the
know.
data guy.
I know.
That's right. Well, thanks again, guys. We appreciate your time, appreciate your presentations. This conference is amazing as always. I'm Adriana Linares. I'm signing off.
And Kimberly Sanchez signing off as well. Great job, guys.
That was fun. Thanks.
That was fun.
I think we killed it. I think we murdered it.
Here you go, Lawrence. Here's some shredded paper for you, buddy.
Okay, I gotta go.
Is that good?
Good?
That was great. I gotta go meet John.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.